One of the reasons that the show Making a Murderer is so popular is because of how it's gone and revealed how there might just be something very wrong with the case of Steven Avery. To the point where the people who watch the show, and even the people who helped make the show, wonder if there's someone else who did the crime that Avery is in jail for right now, and he was just framed for it. The irony of this is that the main suspect in the minds of many is that of Bobby Dassey. So allow us to ask, who is Bobby Dassey and why is he a suspect in Making a Murderer? Number 6. The case of Teresa Halbach. To understand how Bobby's a suspect, we first must look at the case that ties an entire family together for better or worse. In 2005, a woman named Teresa Halbach was murdered, and Steven Avery was arrested after blood had been found in her truck that was linked back to him. Avery wasn't the only one arrested though, as his nephew, Brendan Ray Dassey, was arrested as well and dubbed an accomplice in the case. From the outset, Avery claimed that not only was he innocent, but that the county was trying to set him up due to the civil suit that had been put against them by him. If you don't know, he was wrongfully convicted by the police decades before on another crime and had barely been out of jail before this next case emerged. As the case went on, there were a lot of curious things that were going on with police and prosecution that led many others to believe that this may not be as simple as the case was made out to be in the first place. Not least of which was that Dassey did confess to being an accomplice, but many argue, including Dassey himself, that it was a forced confession, that the police all but tricked him and suggested to him that he was guilty and needed to confess. Dassey was noted to not have the greatest mind and was very suggestible in regards to conversations, and with that came a whole slew of questions about the trial itself. As for Avery, despite the county he was suing stating they would not be involved in the case, many officers from the county were involved in the case, and some even found crucial evidence that Avery was guilty. And that right there was the basis of the first 2 seasons of Making a Murderer, because there was a man who was wrongfully put in prison for years despite having evidence clearly exonerating him, and then not long after his release and suing the county, he is arrested and sentenced again despite certain measures of foul play being presented. So that right there is the preamble to all of this. But of course, the question now is, number 5, who is Bobby Dassey? If you don't know, Bobby Dassey is Steven Avery's nephew. Bobby was one of the key witnesses used by the prosecution in the trial against his uncle. In the trial, he's testified that he saw Halbach taking photos on Avery's property, but didn't see her again after she went into Avery's trailer, even stating that her car was there at the house when he went hunting, but was gone when he came back. However, according to Zellner, Avery's lawyer, that's not what happened at all. In a court motion, she alleges that Bobby Dassey planted the car there to put suspicion on his uncle. Zellner made the motion, citing a new witness who came forward with information. Thomas Sawinski claims he was delivering newspapers to the Avery salvage yard during the early morning hours of November 5, 2005, when he saw a shirtless Bobby Dassey and an unidentified older man pushing a dark blue RAV4 down Avery Road toward the junkyard. Now, before you say, well, wouldn't Avery fit the mold of an older man? Not exactly. The man, according to this new witness, was in his 50s and 60s, while Avery, at the time of the murder in 2005, was in his 40s. While you can argue the age of others based on looks, that's still a pretty steep difference. Plus, he also described the older man as having a large frame and a long gray beard, which Avery does not and did not have at the time. Sawinski then said Bobby tried to block him from exiting the property, but he drove into a ditch to get around him and was able to leave. He then went on to claim that he called the Manitowoc Sheriff's Office to report his encounter with Bobby, but was told by an officer, "We already know who did it." The motion was filed by Zellner in her attempt to prove a Brady violation, claiming the prosecution suppressed evidence that would have been in the defense's favor. Number 4. Sawinski's account of events. The new witness opened up more about the situation and gave his eyewitness account. I felt very afraid as I approached the 2 individuals because Bobby Dassey attempted to step in front of my car, blocking my exit, Sawinski said. I was within 5 feet of Bobby Dassey and my headlights were on the entire time. He went on, Bobby Dassey looked me in the eye and I could tell with the look in his eyes that he was not happy to see me there, Sawinski said. adding that he felt the two men were doing something creepy. Needless to say, when Zellner heard about this, she was elated and went to use this to help Avery. The witness provides the most important evidence in the case to date, Zellner told Newsweek in a statement. He not only discredits the state's star witness, he links this person to the murder. The police ignored his tip. Stephen would not have been convicted if this evidence had been known. Number 3. Why frame his uncle? That is the question, isn't it? Well, apparently, the family Avery and Dassey aren't the best people of the bunch. Even though Stephen Avery is possibly innocent in this case, he's by no means a 100% innocent man. He went on and spent time in jail for true crimes that he did commit and hasn't been the most mentally stable person. Some of his other family members apparently had the same issue, and that's where Bobby comes in. Because if he was someone capable of committing murder and someone who tried to hide evidence, then that means he would be smart enough and cruel enough to go and frame his uncle. Why? Simple. He already had been in jail before, multiple times, and you could argue that Bobby felt the county and courts would be less inclined to believe Stephen due to that past history, even in spite of his most serious offense being overturned, versus someone who had never had a crime like this put against him. And don't forget, Bobby was a key witness for the prosecution. As a result of that, he could have easily told them whatever he wanted if it meant going and getting Avery put behind bars and keeping his nose clean of the matter. Number 2, what this could mean. Let's say all of this is true. Let's say the police did not care about what the new witness said and that he did file a report about what he saw, and that the police, who again were being sued by Avery for the previous false conviction, ignored it, and the prosecution did not disclose it, and so on and so forth. What would happen or could happen to Avery? Well, if this ruling of a Brady violation comes to pass, it would mean that the conviction would be vacated, and Avery, along with other nephew Brendan Dassey, would likely be freed on the spot. At present, that hasn't happened, but if this is proven credible, this could literally change everything. Not to mention, if Avery is proven to have been convicted again of a crime he didn't commit, that's horrifying. Number 1. Trust in the law. One of the reasons that Making a Murderer was so popular amongst many was the fact that it highlighted the flaws in the criminal justice system, to the extent that the reason so many are fighting to clear Avery's name right now is because the system failed him once and might be failing him again. Plus, we know that there have been far too many wrongful convictions in the criminal justice system today, and each one is a violation of trust with the law. Avery is relentlessly trying to appeal his case alongside his legal team. Does that sound like a man who's just trying to game the system, or someone who just wants his freedom? Things are up in the air right now, but that doesn't mean they'll stay that way. So what do you think? What do you think of this look at Bobby Dassey and how he might be the real person behind the crime that put Stephen Avery, his uncle, in jail? Are you shocked by some of the facts and beliefs stated by those close to the case? Do you think he really did it? Or are people just looking for a truth that is easier to believe for them? Let us know in the comments below, and we'll see you next time on the channel.